John Lusk here of Lusk Archery Adventures. Serious testing, successful hunting. I've got a really good broadhead battle lined up for today. I always say the best broadhead battles are where the two heads are very equally matched and have very similar specs. That's what we've got today. I'm going to be testing two crossbow broadheads. Okay, now they're marketed as crossbow broadheads because they're a little bit heavier than normal, but obviously they can be shot through vertical bows as well. So in one corner, I've got a 150 grain Rage TRYPAN all steel model. In the other corner, I've got a 150 grain Sevr ROBUSTO all steel model. Both rear deploying heads, both have a 2-inch cut. Let's see which one comes out on top. What's your prediction? Place your bets now. Pick one. Which one do you think is going to be the winner? As always, for the testing, I'm using my Bowtech SR6 set at 72 pounds and Bishop FOC King arrows. I'm going to zoom on in here, go through some of the design features of each of them, and then put them to the test and let the broadhead battle begin. Here you can see both heads close up, and I'm going to go through some of the similarities and differences in these two heads. The similarities. They're both marketed as 150 grains, and I weighed each of these, and they came out exactly at 150 grains. They're both all steel ferrule and steel blades. They both are advertised as having a 2-inch cut, and they're both rear deploying heads. They're both marketed as crossbow heads, and that means they stay in the closed position very well, even through high-speed bows over 400 feet per second, but they also can both be shot out of a vertical bow. So those are some of the similarities. In terms of the differences, you can see some of the differences even in the closed position. The overall length of the TRYPAN is 1 6/8 inches that protrudes from the end of the arrow, whereas the ROBUSTO is 1 7/8 inches. You notice the surface area of the TRYPAN is quite a bit larger and more than the surface area of the ROBUSTO. That's going to make a difference in flight. Even though both of them are mechanicals and both of them fly well, the ROBUSTO, with such a light, low surface area, is going to be more forgiving out of a really high-speed bow or compound bow, or at longer range, or in a heavy crosswind. So the flight advantage is going to go to the ROBUSTO. Now, in terms of the blades, the TRYPAN has 0.039-inch thick blades, and the Sevr has 0.032-inch thick blades. So the edge and blade thickness goes to the TRYPAN. Another thing to note in the closed position is this little hole right here, and that is for a set screw that comes with the broadhead that you can screw in when the blades are closed, and that allows the blades to be locked in the closed position for practice. And so you can practice with them as much as you want, and none of the edges of the blades themselves are going to be dulled at all, so you can practice with the exact head that you're going to hunt with later. Just make sure that you take that little set screw out before you go hunting, or you're going to be really disappointed. With a TRYPAN, you have to use a practice head if you want to practice with it. Now, in terms of the deployment, the TRYPAN has this little shock collar that's forced back upon impact, and the blades slip back into their fully deployed position like that. With the TRYPAN, or with the ROBUSTO, there's a little O-ring that goes right here. I've already slid it back, and on impact, these little wings push open, and the blades lock into the open position like that. So that's really interesting that they lock. Now, I measured this, and though they're both advertised as 2 inches of cut, the TRYPAN actually came out as 2 1/16 inches of cut. The ROBUSTO came out exactly at a 2-inch cut. Okay, then another thing that's interesting about them is you notice the swept angle of the TRYPAN. It has a more swept angle than does the ROBUSTO. The ROBUSTO, if I put it in its locked position as it's penetrating through, you can notice that it has a bit less swept angle than does the TRYPAN. That's going to, in theory, aid in the penetration of the TRYPAN. However, the overall blade length of the TRYPAN is much greater. It's 1.5 inches as opposed to 1 1/16 inches protruding from the ferrule itself. That's going to make the Sevr blades, in theory, a bit more durable than those of the TRYPAN. So it's interesting to see the trade-offs there in the strengths and the weaknesses. Now, another thing about the ROBUSTO is the blades lock in their open position like this allowing them to pivot within an animal. And what that does is, as it's penetrating, if it hits a hard impact like a bone or a joint or something like that, many heads, when they hit something like that, are going to veer off course and can often miss the vitals entirely. I've seen deer that they've been shot in a really good position, hit a bone, and end up coming out through the gut. Like, it's really interesting to see that. I don't think it happens every time, but it can happen. With the Sevr, that's not going to happen. If the blades hit something like that, it's going to just push the other blade out. It's going to continue to get a good cut. And then as soon as it passes that object, it's going to swing back into its open position right there. So that's going to give it a little bit of an edge in penetration through hard mediums, and a little bit of an edge in terms of staying on course through an animal like that. Now, both of them, by their blade deployment, have this little area that's dulled on the butt of the blades that pushes the other blade open. Okay, that's the way they're designed. It's a bit more protruding in the Sevr than it is in the TRYPAN, but the TRYPAN has it as well. It's just this little butt right there. That's going to hinder penetration. Again, probably an edge goes to the TRYPAN in that regard because it's a little bit less protruding. So I'm really eager to put these to the test. I'm not going to be testing them for flight. I have shot them at 70 yards. They both fly very well. But again, out of a crossbow or at long range or in heavy crosswind, the advantage is in flight is going to go to the ROBUSTO. But I'm eager to test them for penetration and durability and edge sharpness and retention, and see which head prevails in this broadhead battle. Out of the box sharpness. One stroke of the arrow. Two strokes of the arrow. Fourth stroke of the arrow. Fifth stroke of the arrow. Okay, it didn't cut. The rate's TRYPAN cut paper after 4 strokes of the arrow. Sevr out of the box sharpness. 1 stroke of the arrow. 2 strokes of the arrow. 3 strokes of the arrow. 4 strokes of the arrow. 5 strokes of the arrow. The Sevr cuts paper after 5 strokes of the arrow. First the ROBUSTO and then the TRYPAN. It's kind of hard to see with the lighting here, but each of them penetrated right at 7 3/4 inches. TRYPAN first shot. This is the first shot into the MDF as part of the durability test. Now, it already went through 1 layer of MDF when I did the penetration test with the gel behind it. So I thought at first when I saw this that the head just embedded in the MDF, and I was kind of disappointed with the penetration. However, then I realized as I turned it over that no, in fact, it broke a blade. So it did penetrate well. It just broke a blade here. And you see this other blade got significantly bent up. So the ferrule held up really well, but the blades did not. ROBUSTO first shot. Here's the ROBUSTO after going through the MDF 5 times. And you can see it compared to the TRYPAN that went through the MDF 1 time in the durability test. Quite a difference. The ROBUSTO still looks brand new. The blades are in perfect condition. The edges look perfect. Everything about it is just brand new looking. That's amazing. You know, I found that the Sevrs are the most durable mechanical head on the market today, at least from all the ones I've tested so far, especially the Sevr 1.5. You get a smaller cut, but with a shorter blade length, that just makes it all the more durable. I've shot the 1.5 through 22 gauge steel plate 5 times and it held up. Many fixed blade heads can't even do that. And I shot it into concrete 3 times and it held up. It could have kept going. Again, many fixed blade heads can't even do that. So it's an extremely durable mechanical head. And I want to show you something that a lot of people don't understand that really makes the difference in why the blades don't bend or break as readily as others. And it's found in this little connection right here. Okay, you see that gap where this blade butts up against the other blade, okay, right there? Now, if you look closely, you see the way it's designed is one is angled one way, the other's angled the other way, and they fit together, but with a lot of force, and it takes a lot of force, like a really hard hit. This blade on right here is going to slide under this other blade, and they're going to overlap. And that takes a lot of force to do that. And when it does do that, then they're going to get stuck in that position. And when they get stuck, you kind of go, man, it's a bummer, the blades are stuck. But you just take a pair of pliers or something and just pry them back that way. They get unstuck. And then you have, again, just a brand new ready to shoot head. But it's a great way to absorb the shock. So if you hit something really hard on one blade, it's just going to rotate out of the way. If you hit something really hard with both at the same time, you're still very unlikely to bend or break the blades because of that overlapping shock absorbing design. Pretty cool.
So what did you think of the Broadhead battle? In some ways, it was really close. Like when you think of the edge sharpness and retention, both were excellent. When you think of the penetration, man, they were neck and neck. Both penetrated fairly well, given their large cut size. Flight, both of them are going to fly really well. Slight edge goes to the Robusto. But then when it comes to durability, there really is just no comparison. For the TRYPAN to lose a blade on the very first shot in the durability test, that was pretty disappointing. That doesn't happen very often, although it does happen when I test rages, I'm going to be honest. Usually they lose a blade or significantly bend a blade on the first or second shot of whatever durability test I do. But then the Sevr is just extremely durable. From my experience, it's the most durable mechanical head on the market today, especially the Sevr 1.5, but the Robusto with that all steel ferrule is extremely durable as well. So the Broadhead battle winner for today is the Sevr Robusto. Great job, Sevr.